While we're on the ABC, which has issued 37 corrections or clarifications this year already, this latest one was a howler. Let's have a listen.
Mr. Biden has visited sites in New York, the Pentagon and Pennsylvania, where al-Qaeda terrorists killed hundreds of people with hijacked planes.
The clarification reads, on September 12, local radio morning news updates stated that al-Qaeda terrorists killed hundreds in the 11 September 2001 attacks. The report should have stated that nearly 3,000 people were killed. James, that's about as bad as it gets. What do you think of the chances that Paul Barry will cover this?
Well, I mean, if Paul Barry covers that, it's going to be to say shame on the broadcaster in question here who used that deadly word terrorists, the T word, rather than some sort of less judgmental term like freedom fighter or, a terrible oppressed person who was behind the attacks which killed 3,000 people. It's the perfect ignorance of this sort of journalist that reminds me of what Ben Rhodes, who was Barack Obama's former deputy national security advisor and the guy behind that horrible Iran deal, said. He said basically that he could feed stories to any journalist about anything because he said most journalists in Washington were completely ignorant and had never read a book in their life, and so they didn't understand anything he was telling them about Iran. They just took it from him at face value because they didn't know anything about it. They didn't know anything about the broader world, and so he was able to basically get them to give him all this wonderful coverage for this Iran deal. The same thing's happening here. This journalist, just doesn't even engage with her own news, and doesn't even know that you can't say, oh, it's a few hundred. No, 2,996 to be exact on September 11th. Over to you, Media Watch.
Sophie, I mean, the other point to make is how many people, how many layers would that have gone through? We know the ABC's bloated, they're overstaffed. They would have had a lot of eyes on that package before it went to the airwaves, and they're allowing people to get away with saying that only hundreds died on September 11.
Well, Jack, I look forward to the ABC Communications Department issuing a tweet and tagging the staff involved in this and making sure that there's a pile on them like they do to me. And I doubt very much that will happen, but can't wait for Monday night with Paul Barry to name and shame those involved. I'll be having my popcorn sitting there waiting in anticipation.